Hey folks, welcome back to the podcast, Evil Dungeon Master Universe Podcast. I'm your host, Evil Dungeon Master Vince. Hopefully you're doing well. We're back on schedule. Today is Wednesday. We're doing another podcast just for you out there because everybody enjoys these little 10 to 15 minute talks about AD&D, and that's what we're all about, AD&D. Eventually I'm going to run out of things to talk about AD&D. Nah, never. There's plenty of stuff to talk about for AD&D, I'm telling you. Anyway, ask the DM. Ask the DM at theevildm.com is my email address. Theevildm.com is my website. You can go there and check out the things that I'm getting myself into all the time. I was on my Rumble channel. Oh, before I continue today's conversation, there is no live stream tonight for Random Rolls. We'll be back next week. Jeff had changed his hours for work, so he's getting used to that, and then we'll be back on schedule for the Random Rolls. But there will be a member stream on Friday like normal at 5:05 p.m. Central Time, where we'll talk to our members, which we have a good time doing that, and it's all uncensored because it's private, so fun times. Anyway, I was on my Rumble channel, rumble.com/evilDM, and I was streaming, test streaming on there to see how the quality was and how it looked. And Rumble streaming still needs a lot of work. Even with high bit rates and everything, it didn't look that great. But I was testing out Hex Mapping. And Hex Mapping is something that I've been getting into in the last, couple of years, maybe 1-2 years. But I've always liked the idea of building hex maps and building out a whole entire region for your campaign before you start, and then placing various things in places so players have kind of an idea how far things are. Now, Theater of the Mind is really great, and it works pretty well most of the time, but I've noticed that with at least my group and groups in the past, they like to see something a little more visual. And when I say visual, I mean like a map. A lot of times in the game I'm playing, a lot of the players will ask, well, is there a map of the world? And they're asking in character, is there a map of the world I could see? Or a map of the area I could see? And generally I do have some type of quick generated map through some program that someone made, like Donjons or something like that. And while that's great, I think having a hex map is better. It's just, there's something about just putting all the pieces together yourself when you're rolling it, and actually placing it I was using Worldographer, which is kind of a weird, complex program to use. It's not that easy. I'm trying to learn that again. I bought it in a Humble Bundle or a bundle a long time ago, and I've never really used it because it just frustrated me. I'm like, you know what? It's time to use it. So yeah, I mean, the guy put a lot of work into it. I believe his name is Joe, and I really want to learn how to use it because it's a very good tool to make your own map, and it's just kind of interesting. I was using my own version of hex mapping that I made a program for, and decided I didn't like it too much overall. But on page 173 of the AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide, Appendix B, it has a whole entire hex mapping process. It kind of falls under solo play, though, because when Gary talks about solo play, he kind of just barely touches upon it with like a little paragraph about it. And when he talks about solo play, it's mostly just building your map and kind of going through it with your characters. And that's really about it. That's all he talks about, but nothing more. But Appendix B is where he talks about random wilderness terrain. And it shows you how to roll on the chart, starting with generally a home base or a plains you start with. And then you roll on that column and you see what you get. And then there's little if-thens or but things going on. Like if there's, if it's a forest, there's a 1 in 10 chance it has hills too. So you roll them. Oh, we've got hills here. Awesome. And then from there, you go roll in the next column and see what it is. And it could be anything from a scrub, a forest, a rough, a desert, hills, mountains, and marshes. And then there's also a chance that, hills will have a forest around it, or it might be a pass through a ravine or something, then there's a chance that when you could possibly of the each of the hexes has a chance of having some type of, I guess, point of interest or some type of settlement or something. He listed a settlement. I've always called it point of interest. But you roll percentile, and generally, if you get anything under, I believe it's 17, so 16 and under, you will get some type of settlement and or point of interest. It goes from as small as a single dwelling home to a thorp, a hamlet, a village, a town, a city, a castle, and then there's ruins, and it tells you a type of ruins. And then you can even go as far as rolling how much the population is for these various dwellings or whatever cities. But if you do roll a castle, you can go to page 182 and you can flesh out that entire castle with what the inhabitants are of that castle. So it might not also be let's see here, castle table on page 182. You could do the size and the type. It could be a small castle to a large castle. And it'll tell you like descriptions for that. And then there's a table too, who inhabits the castle. Is it deserted? Is it not deserted? Is there like some type of human characters in there? Are there monsters in there? It tells you what type of humans are in there. And it also goes as far as who like the master class and level would be that's running that area. So, and it also has abilities to have like, if there's towers with it, there's a small like a moat house with it, and things like that. It goes into quite a bit of detail. I originally tried rolling with this chart, and when I was doing AD&D solo for a little while, and I drew a pretty decent map with it. And it's interesting that how this works, because you would think it's so random that it's going to look like crap. But I rolled the map out with these hexes, and just looking at it, I could see certain areas forming like forests and little mountain ranges going across it, and it was just kind of interesting to see how that worked. You know, there's a pond here, there's a river here, all these different things that you could do with it, and it gets your mind kind of going. You're looking at this map, and you're like, okay, so Hex 102 is a forest that's surrounded by, you know, a very heavy, thick, dark forest. Maybe this forest is cursed with spiders, and there's a spider queen that lives in here that, you know, you have to travel through. And over here in the mountains, there's a small single dwelling. Who lives there? There's only 3 people there. Maybe it's a sorcerer and his apprentices, and he got banished to the mountains, and that's now where he lives. But you have to go there as a quest with your party to go talk to this sorcerer who can give you some information about something you need, or maybe an item that you need. Kind of one of those things. Maybe he's crazy. Who knows? And you just kind of like form different ideas when you look at different places, and you see another settlement in the middle of a river fork. Why did they settle here? Who are these people? And then you start, you know, building that out, and then you start building this out, and then you start putting your dungeons in certain places and your monster encampments everywhere, until this, before you know it, you have this giant map of this area where the players can spend ages and never ever leave, and they start at first level and go up to as many levels as you want. You can build it out and keep building it out until you are completely done with what you're doing. I spent, you know, a good hour and a half, and I just kind of just only touched the surface on the map. I mean, I could have kept going. It's, I don't know. Today's I guess topic is just a rant about, or I don't know about a rant, but a ramble about how wonderful hex mapping is, and how I've kind of ignored it over the years and until recently. And I'm just like, you know what, this is a lot of fun. And I never really understood why people thought it was fun until now, looking at it and doing it and working with these programs. And there's tons of supplements out there for it. You don't have to use the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master Guide. There is Judges Guild has the Wilderness Exploration packet, that you could probably get online. I've seen it floating around and people were using it, but it's just a couple of pages that they did for their hex procedure that's really detailed. There was the one from Strategic Magazine back in the 70s that Gary had put together for wilderness hexing. There was a follow up in the Wilderness Survival Guide, I believe, that has further hex mapping on there as well. There's tons of resources on drivethrurpg for hex mapping. I think there was one called D100 Hex Sandboxing or something. You can, if you just Google it, like right now I just did, there's 4, 5, 6, 7 websites I'm looking at about how to, hex mapping, what you need, things like that. So, I mean, you don't even need to do it. You could just go into and randomly place it however you want. I like the idea of rolling dice and letting them do it so that I could just kind of put it together. And hex mapping, you don't have to be the best person to draw. All you have to do is be able to make a little symbol, and that's it. I mean, a little tree, okay, done. A town could be a circle. A city could be a circle with a dot. Things like that. You don't have to know how to draw. All you have to know how to do is make symbols. And if you use an online program, you don't have to worry. If you use like Photoshop or Inkscape or Affinity Designer, you can use as well for those type of things. You can get the free icons online and just use them for your map, and you're done. Tell me what you think about hex mapping. Have you done it for your campaign? Do you even care about hex mapping, or you just kind of just go to one of those places online and go, hey, generate me a map, done, and then fill in like names and stuff later on? I'm curious if anyone else has an excitement about map hexing and things like that, because I know I do. With that said, I'm going to head out. Keep it original, keep it old school. Good night, and God bless everybody. Keep those AD&D fires lit.